Hi, I'm Brian, and I'd like to welcome you to Munros For Dogs. On this trip, Cody, Poppy, and myself attempted to summit. You'll have to excuse the pronunciations. I think we're all in the same boat when it comes to pronouncing Scottish Munro names. Stob a Choire Odhair and Stob a Choire. This trip was done in early February. As you can see, there's lots of snow on the ground, and as you'll see on the Munros itself. Forecast wasn't brilliant. There was going to be snow that day, and the winds were reasonably manageable. They weren't overly high at the time. That was going to change throughout the day, so it affected our trip. Be aware, if you are going to do these Munros up in Glenetive, at this time of the year, especially with snow in the hills, there are a lot of deer that end up coming down. You will see them on the footage and a lot of the photos as well. They did tend to stay at the low ground, so as I went up the Munros, there wasn't so much of an issue. The terrain itself after the Victoria Falls is absolutely fine. There's no major issue for dogs. You can see it in the video footage here. Nothing they can't handle. It's the same for the rest of the day up onto the Munro. There's no major issues for dogs. And there you can see some deer that were just moving around. They weren't overly bothered by the dogs. They were kept on the lead because of the amount of deer that were running around. They just kind of do their own thing and slowly moved off. And it was that throughout the most of the first part of the walk, all the way up to the Green Hut. After that, there wasn't many deer to be seen. It was nice to see for a change lots of deer. You always hope to see some wildlife on the little treks out in the hills. Doesn't always happen, but because of the weather conditions, it was really quite lucky. Navigationally, there's no major issues with the start of this route. You're pretty much following the river on this decent track all the way up until you see the Green Hut. You see lots of those posts, videos. There is a little bridge at the Green Hut that can lead you on to a track round the back. It's a bit misleading. I did follow that with the dogs, and it's a bit more boggy round the back of the hut. If you go past the hut, you will see a signpost, and there's a better track off to your right hand side that will take you up on the path that takes you all the way to the main road. So yes, there's the bridge, a bit misleading, but it's much more boggy around the back, as I said. You're better off just pushing down the track a little bit and you will see it. Depending on the time of year, the path's going to be much more boggy or less boggy, but that's pretty much the same for most Munros. It does break into a much better track, as you will see later on. So again, as you can see from the train, no major issues for the dogs. There's nothing that they can't handle. Quite lucky here, you've got a large dog going up, and you've also got a smaller breed, Golden Retriever and a Pomeranian. Both experts at this point in the Munros. They've done well over 100 Munros at this point. Going up in Munros in these conditions, it's all about your confidence and your dog's confidence. Both my dogs are very confident in the snow, they know what they're doing, and they both have the capability of doing this type of terrain and this type of weather. Poppy's got a little jacket on just to give her a bit more insulation for the weather condition she's in. As you go on, the dirt track eventually turns into this little stony bouldery path. No major problem for your dogs. I had more of an issue than they did because the path was quite icy and slippy. Like a lot of paths, a lot of water comes down, gets frozen overnight, and you're almost walking on an ice rink. I did put on micro spikes later on to get up there, so if you're going up in this weather conditions, be aware that some of these paths do end up becoming rivers at some point, that freezes and micro spikes come in very, very handy. Again, terrain really good at this point, no major issues. A lot of the deer have moved away to the lower grounds, and at this point we didn't see any higher up. So if your dog is much more of a chaser, at least going up at this point you won't have any problems with livestock. I didn't see the sheep in the area, and I've also been up in the summertime and I haven't seen the sheep on these Munros. It's a good solid path all the way up, and again navigationally it's not too bad. We're now on the summit of Stob Choire, and as you can see the conditions have massively changed. A lot of snow, very low visibility for the actual Munro itself. It's quite hard to navigate up to get on the summit if you don't know what you're doing. As you can imagine, we didn't hang around on the summit long, so we ended up heading towards our second Munro of the day, which was Stob Choire. Unfortunately, we weren't going to make it that day. We did bump into a team that were doing some mountain training. They went for that summit first. I bumped into them down the Bilac, and they said the ridge was unpassable. It's too much ice. There was an alternate that I had in my mind that takes you round the back shoulder and takes you onto the summit that way. But at this point, the wind had really kicked up and there was a lot of snow. It was well over 40 mile an hour at this point with the wind, and I was being hit with spin drifts of gusts probably up to about 50. So it wasn't much of a pleasant day. We ended up calling it for safety. We'd got a Munro in the bag and we're quite happy that the dogs did fantastic. And I think that's one of the most important things to remember about Munro, is that the weather condition can say one thing and then the hill can say another when you get there. Even throughout the day it can massively change on you from being really bad to really good. As I was going down, the weather did get a lot better up there, but I was too far down to head up and make another attempt on the second Munro. Good day overall, dogs did fantastic, and we got some really good training out of it, especially with the navigation and the whiteout. Despite the fact that there was no view on the top, we actually got some really good views coming back down the hill itself. I think that Munros are beautiful no matter what time of year you go, but winter, I think they're at their best. Whether it's a lot of snow or a little snow on them, they just look fantastic. And if you are really enjoying taking photographs of Munros, you can get some cracking ones, especially in these conditions. And as you can see, the dogs had a fantastic time. This kind of weather condition doesn't faze them. But if you are going to take your dogs up and they've never been in these conditions, do some training low level, get them used to it, find out if the snow is going to stick to their fur. There are things out there that can help you with that, paw wax, and some good products that will help prevent build up of snow in your dogs, because that's just a rubbish day for them if they've got lots of snowballs stuck to the actual fur. Poppy had an absolute ball on this. She's quite happy in these conditions. And that's her sporting her nice rough wear jacket. And Cody having a great day as well. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. Please leave a comment and subscribe to Munros for Dogs for further videos. And we also have a Facebook page where you can get lots of help and advice, called Munros for Dogs.